Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the 217 Horror Podcast. After a little bit of a break, extended break for the holidays, we hope everybody's having a wonderful holiday season, regardless of what you celebrate. And I, of course, am your host, the Jameus, joined as always by the fantastic co-host, Ash Rose. Ash, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I hope all is well. Hope everyone's having a happy holidays, or they will have a happy holidays. And if you don't, just know that's totally okay.
The
The Grinch didn't enjoy the holidays either, so there's that.
As the old adage goes, the weather outside is frightful, and we like it frightful here at this channel. The Oh, I love that Grinch though. The scene where Jim Carrey is yelling at an echo is one of these straight up funniest scenes in movie history, and I will stand by.
Grinch is very popular this year.
I love the Jim Carrey Grinch.
Yeah, he's very popular this year. I mean, not that he wasn't popular, but he's pretty popular this year.
I mean, he has dinner with himself. He can't cancel that again. That's a packed schedule. So we are starting off on a little bit of a sad note tonight. While not really known for horror, for somebody who did one film in the horror genre, it is one of the most important horror films of all time, and I wish we would have seen more. We unfortunately lost Rob Reiner this past week as of this recording. And an unfortunate situation that I'm sure everybody's heard about, we don't need to go into. But we talked early on in the 217 Horror Podcast about the best Stephen King adaptations. And of course, there were two Stephen King adaptations from Rob Reiner that are beloved. Stephen King said that his best adaptation he's ever seen of any of his films personally is Stand By Me, which is an adaptation of The Body, a short story he did. But the horror one I want to focus on is Misery with Kathy Bates and James Caan. I think that Kathy Bates delivers truly not just one of the greatest horror performances. She won the Academy Award for Best Actress for that, and in a time where horror wasn't really highly regarded within the major prestige film, if you will, that was a massive deal. But it's because her performance is truly one of the greatest, not just horror performances in general in movie history. It's such a delicate balance of somebody who is insane, for lack of a better term, absolutely insane, but still delicate enough to make you somewhat comfortable and just eerie in a comforting sense. And it's really hard to balance that, and I thought she did excellent. But the performance is really aided by the way Rob Reiner worked the camera, because he kind of shot it kind of like a stage play, which really made it small. And I don't mean that as a derogatory, I mean that as a compliment. It's shot small, but it feels big because it's shot small. Every time Kathy Bates, and she does a lot, Annie, I can't think of her last name, starts monologuing, the frame is just her face. So all you see is her face as James Caan's character is going through all of this. And it really makes it just that much more freakier. And her facial expressions for the entire movie are great, though, because there's a scene where she finally breaks down and tells him why she loves the character so much, where she's coming out in the rain, and for that one scene, her eyes are just telling the entire story of she has nobody, she has nothing, this character is all she's had for so long, and you're getting to the real crux of her character dilemma, and they don't explore it more. And that's the only time you see any real emotion in Kathy Bates' eyes, despite the fact that she's portraying this emotion in the character. And that's such a hard character to pull off. I think the direction really helped it. And I think casting Kathy Bates when Rob Reiner was adamant, no, we will not go get a bigger star for this, because this was her first real leading role, was one of the shrewdest choices he could have made. A phenomenal movie. a phenomenal horror movie, a phenomenal thriller too. Like it's gripping. It's just, I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made. And I don't think we've really discussed it on this channel yet. So I wanted to take some time to kind of go into it at the start of the show. It's been a while since you've seen it, hasn't it?
Misery. When was the last time I saw Misery? I think it might have been a few months ago.
Oh, really? That's recent.
Well, I think it's because I think they were probably either showing it on AMC or BBC America, one of the two.
Okay.
It was either way. It was an AMC owned station because I was using AMC Plus.
Right.
So it might have been like sometime before Halloween or the month of October was the last time I saw Misery. Because usually they'll show Misery and then they'll show like Dolores Claiborne along with it.
Right.
So no, we haven't really gone into Misery. I think it's shot the way it is, as far as particular, like how you stated, like small. It's because it gives you the feeling of isolation.
Right. Exactly.
And that is exactly what is going on. He's completely isolated, along with it's taking place during a blizzard, or everyone's snowed in, so there's no way really out. She apparently has a way out because she goes to the store for him and all that stuff. But I think that's the reason, particularly why it's shot in that order, that way.
In terms of isolation, and this is a much different movie, but there's another Stephen King adaptation I rewatched recently. The Shining takes place in a blizzard and does a really good job exploring isolation. Of course, The Shining is a lot more psychological versus what James Caan is going through is a physical.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the Jack Nicholson's character always had a way out, and he took it away from his family. And then the family had the way out when I can't think of his name, comes in with after renting the thing to get through the snow. I think there are ways to get out in those scenarios. I kind of like that they don't tell you. And the fact that I think the story takes place in a small town, they really nail the small town factor. I just think it's really well done. It was fun to rewatch it the other night when I was doing. Look, we talked about it on our last episode. What's my favorite rom-com? When Harry Met Sally. I'm like a big Rob Reiner fan. I think that run of movies he had in the late 80s, early 90s, people like to start it with Stand By Me. I think The Sure Thing is on the level. The movie before that with John Cusack. As his other films, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. But I was talking about isolation. There's a small town feel there that I think he really hits well. And it's fun to watch because everybody in the small town knows who she is. She knows what her obsession is. But everybody just assumes she's dead except for Richard Farnsworth's character who comes in and tries to help him. Obviously, he gets slain for it. I just keep going back to that one scene where she's telling him she loves him, and she's just like, "Oh, you're just saying that," and she shows him the gun, and her face is so solemnly expressionless, and that's contradictory. How can something be solemn but also expressionless? But like her entire facial reaction is just cold, except for the eyes, where you can just tell. She's been through some stuff, and they don't really explore what the stuff is, and I think that helps it too, because you don't need to explore what the stuff is, because the story isn't about her. It's about his experience dealing with her. And I just think that the way it focuses the entire movie on her face really just tells the story of his suffering through her. Because at the same time, when someone is so obsessed with somebody that they want to take over their life, make them rewrite their story, make them put up with them, there's still a psychologically messed up part of them that doesn't want that person to go through pain, even though obviously they're going to go through pain. And I think it's one of the best horror stories ever told, even if it's a little more subtle than some more flashier horror. So that news was sad. And I do think he's one of the best filmmakers ever. I wish we would have gotten more horror from Rob Reiner. But I kind of like that he never revisited a genre other than the rom-com. Mm-hmm. Like, he did his courtroom drama with A Few Good Men. He did his political thriller with An American President, which is also a different news topic this week that we're not going to go into. He did his fantasy epic with The Princess Bride, one of the most beloved movies of all time. He started with a mockumentary with This Is Final Tap. And all of them just feel like somebody had mastered the art of the craft by doing 15 movies of that genre beforehand. And maybe he took a lot from different movies. Like, I know The Sure Thing takes a lot from It Happened One Night. I know that Misery takes a lot from different Hitchcocks. But that's what great artists do. They borrow. So just sad news that I wanted to cover that at the top of the show. Any particular Rob Reiner movie stand out to you?
I mean, besides The Princess Bride, but we're a horror podcast, so
that's true. It was just inconceivable news. But let's move on to something less sad. So another movie that really started making the genre feel prestigious early on before it got well liked and well received in the mainstream was The Exorcist. Ellen Burstyn followed up her first Oscar nomination from The Last Picture Show and deciding to do a horror movie, which everybody thought was not a good choice. And it ended up being a smash hit, and she got her second Oscar nomination for The Exorcist, the first real lead acting nomination for a horror film. So this franchise is not new to casting big mainstream Hollywood actors to its franchise, which brings up an interesting point. The most recent cast member announced for the new Exorcist movie done by Mike Flanagan. For the record, I don't think there needs to be another Exorcist. I don't think Exorcist Believer was very good, but they're making it anyway. And if you're going to make one, Mike Flanagan's probably the best horror director in the world right now with his Netflix stuff. His Netflix shows have done really, really well, and they were really, really solid. Of course, he has Clayface coming up, which is a genre film within a genre that I find really interesting. He is doing it with Scarlett Johansson as the lead, and I thought that was interesting. I think it's interesting that she went right back to standard franchise fare, but at the same time, I think it's interesting that they went out and cast somebody big for an Exorcist movie in 2026 or 2027, whenever it comes out. So you saw the news. What did you think about that?
I was honestly a little bit surprised because I didn't think they were going to make another Exorcist. Not about Scarlett Johansson. I'm surprised in the aspect of they're making another one, but I'm also surprised a little that she's in it. It was just not a name I was expecting.
Right. Of course, she's always a solid actor, dating back to Ghost World, that weird Steve Buscemi movie. But I just don't. I'm sorry.
I said I like Ghost World.
I love Ghost World. That's a 5-star movie for me.
A lot of people like it. It's a cult classic.
I wish Thora Birch had a better career. That's all I'm saying, because she was awesome in the early aughts. There's not really much to talk about here, but the Deadline report was interesting. Jason Blum is producing it, Blumhouse, of course, and I thought Flanagan being attached was. I honestly think Flanagan being attached is a little more interesting than ScarJo herself, even though ScarJo is going to grab the headlines a little bit. Um, it's. I'm not the biggest fan of Flanagan's horror movies. I thought Oculus was a fun premise, but I didn't think it had the budget it needed to really deliver the goods. Um, didn't he do one of those Ouija movies? I'm not sure. But I really enjoy his Netflix shows, and if it's anything like that, and if it has the production value of The Life of Chuck, speaking of Stephen King adaptations, movie he just did, I'm all for it. I think if anybody's going, okay, I'm going to get to this point later with a different movie, but I think the best movies to redo are the movies that could have been better. And I think that's my issue with The Exorcist, is you can't make a better Exorcist movie than the first one. Let the power of Christ compel you. You just can't. And I think every movie, not only The Exorcist, but every exorcism movie since has been chasing the high, trying to capitalize on the success of The Exorcist. And we're on 50 years, and we haven't had remotely the modicum of similar success for any of these movies. So I'm not sure if it's. I don't think there's much you can do with the franchise that hasn't been done.
Okay.
Oh, I was hoping you would
No, I don't have anything to say.
bounce off on that. Pardon
No,
our brief
I'm not like a huge Exorcist fan to begin with.
right.
I kind of honestly thought like The Exorcist was a little boring.
It's very 70s, and if you love 70s horror, it's for you. For me, it's not necessarily the great horror part of it. It's just that this might be a hot take. It might be a weird hot take. I think Ellen Burstyn is one of our best living actresses. So seeing her chew up scenery, especially back then at her peak, because the Exorcist came out in between Last Picture Show and the Jack Nicholson movie she did. Like, she was getting a lot of big work, and she just decided, I'm going to go chew up some religious horror scenery for a little bit, and it was very fun to watch. So I guess that's where my enjoyment of the franchise comes in. And she was the best part of the last movie that just came out 2 years ago, for what it's worth, to me anyway. So we'll move on. I just thought that was interesting. But since I already mentioned it, let's go ahead and talk about the big thing I want to talk about. So I had just mentioned, I think the best movies to remake are movies that could have been better. Nobody wants to retread the classics of their childhood, but there are a lot of movies that, for whatever reason, whether it be studio involvement, bad timing, whatever the case may be, just didn't get made the right way. And those are the movies that people want to see. They want to see good, compelling stories, and just because a movie didn't do well, it doesn't mean it wasn't compelling. And I think those are the movies that should be remade. And one of those movies, and I'm going to step on some toes here. I actually just watched it for the first time recently. I did not care for the first Silent Night, Deadly Night.
I think you told me that. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, but that's just me.
I don't hate it. I don't think it's nearly as bad as the critics panned it to be when it first came out. For me, it never ends up in that 70s slashers have a camp quality that make them a good time, even if the movie isn't. You know what I mean? And for me, it never delves into that camp classic territory to where, oh, I'm going to have fun with this movie. I don't really know. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but the new Silent Night, Deadly Night, now that's a movie you should remake. It came from Screambox and Bloody Disgusting. And they told a lot of the same story beats, but they did a lot differently. So I'm going to dive into some spoilers here. So we're going to put a spoiler tag on the screen during this part. The movie opens in a nursing home of a kid visiting his grandfather on Christmas Eve, and the grandfather dies in front of him from a complication with his medicine. It turns out that his parents drugged the grandfather, overdosed his medicine to kill him for inheritance purposes, and then they get murdered on Christmas Eve too, which the parents being murdered is very similar to the first one. That's kind of how the first one opens too. Instead of going to,
I thought you were going to say Batman, but
look, ScarJo's also in the new Batman movie. She got that casting announcement too.
oh shit, didn't she? Oh
Yeah.
man, that's a coincidence. I was just like, I thought you were going to say Batman for some reason.
She's in a lot. She's in a lot of stuff coming up. Good for her, man. She's got to pay for that Colin Jost New York City ferry misstep. But his mother survives long enough to kill their killer, and then there's a supernatural element to this movie, and that's, I think, where I wasn't expecting it, where I really enjoyed the genre bend a little bit, is he realizes the guy who killed his parents is still alive, so he grabs onto him, and then the guy becomes him, and he ends up being kind of like the voice in his head who shows him why people need to die. So everything becomes justifiable homicide. Like, and it's just fun. Like, there's a moment where he realizes the person he came to kill, and it's awesome. Like they gave in the beginning, you don't realize he's killing people justifiably. You don't know he knows why they have to die, and he picks people because somebody's going to die anyway. So to balance out, he chooses bad people, but you don't know that. So you find out later that the first guy he murders, that's seemingly a nice guy, murders his wife, and it was never solved, stuff like that. But the more interesting part, and this is where a lot of horror movies try to do different storyline and it fails, is he's a drifter. Instead of going to an orphanage, he's a drifter his entire life. And so he finds a city and he gets this job at a local mom and pop Christmas shop, and he falls in love with the daughter of the owner. Sounds very hallmarky. I promise you it's not. Maybe a little Lifetimey, because those movies get a little dark. And she is dealing with a lot of emotional trauma. So he uses his experiences to help her work through it. And she ends up being okay with the justifiable homicide. But the storyline itself, there's a really interesting exploration of trauma through two different people with two very different types of trauma that I thought was. It all depends on the charm of the leads, and they weren't great actors, but they were very charming. So it was fun to watch the entire time. I was never disengaged. It's not horror movie of the year or anything, but I really left enjoying the genre bend. I really left enjoying how they updated the story to give it a little more substance. I think that's what this first Silent Night, Deadly Night is missing to me. Look, I'm not expecting a slasher film to be the best screenplay in the world and have a lot of substance, you know? That's not that genre. But I do think the first one the original lacks any substance at all, to a point where I just don't care about what's happening. And I find myself caring a lot more and having a good time with this one. So if it's still in theaters when this airs and you have a chance to go see it, do something festive and go see a horror movie for Christmas. Did you know this was getting remade?
I did. I heard, along with Return of the Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead's supposed to be coming out pretty soon, I believe. The remake.
That's interesting. I didn't know that was getting remade.
Return of the Living Dead. Yeah.
I knew that
Interesting enough. There's something interesting about that I was going to tell you. Give me 1 minute. Yeah, there's like a trailer for it, I believe, or like a teaser trailer.
Okay. So you had a chance to learn about the new Silent Night, Deadly Night. Where was your excitement at when you heard it was announced, and where is the excitement level now that it may be getting some fun, albeit not great, but solid reviews?
Honestly, it's not even. I mean, I can't even tell you because I can't think of like what I was feeling at the time.
Okay.
And that's just genuinely my genuine answer. I can't think of what I was.
It was a very long time ago.
Yeah, it was a very long time ago. But yeah, as far as, but that's what I was saying. Like, that's not a question I was expecting to answer, James, because I don't get asked that, and nor would I actually be able to remember what feelings of excitement I might have had.
All I know is my excitement level was pretty lukewarm heading in. I was just like, oh, cool, it's a slasher. I'll have a good time. And I had a hoot. Like, it was a good time. Like, it wasn't like Sinners or Weapons. It's not going to be on the year-end horror, best of horror, which, by the way, I'm thinking for those who read the Death Arts 13 website, somebody might be publishing a best horror performances of the year list for the end of the year, so be on the lookout for that. Performances from both movies I just mentioned will be in it. Shout out to Wunmi Mosaku for having my favorite supporting actress performance of the year in Sinners. It wasn't like the best movie of the year or anything, horror wise, but I did have a very good time. It was just fun to watch the carnage. And when I walk into a slasher movie, that's all I care about. I want to see some hoodettes. I want to have a good time. And I think it delivered the goods on both. In a way, the first one for me didn't, even though I know a lot of people love the first one a lot more than I do.
Yeah, that's why I said, so I was like, my excitement, I didn't have as much excitement as I did hearing that they were remaking Return of the Living Dead.
Right.
But that's just my personal opinion. But I do plan on actually watching it. So
I don't think you and I, on air or off air, have ever talked about Return of the Living Dead.
No, we've never talked about Return of the Living Dead.
That's a pretty beloved movie, though, isn't it?
Pretty beloved movie in our community, yeah.
Right. I think that's what makes it an interesting remake. Is it's more beloved than Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a harder sell to remake beloved movies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody wants to see.
It's going to be interesting to see
better.
Reaction. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see people's reaction of when it does come out.
Right.
I think it's coming out pretty soon. I'm not sure what the release date is, but
let me look that up real quick. Return of the Living Dead remake release date. That was originally slated for Christmas of 2025, but we know that didn't happen. I don't see much of a great update. There is no release date right now. It's been pushed back, so we'll keep an eye on it if anything comes up. But it's been a pretty good year for horror. Another thing we haven't talked about on the show that I think I am no help on because I still haven't seen it. But I see you're wearing a Dexter shirt. What were your thoughts on Resurrection?
As far as the new season?
Right.
Well, yeah. No, it was good. It was a lot better than what was it called? The previous one?
Blood.
New
Blood, yeah.
New
The
Blood
one-
New Blood was okay. I didn't care for it, but this previous like season and that they're going to launch another season pretty soon. I think they've announced that.
Right.
Was really good. It was a very. If you have ever seen the whole series, it's very much reminiscent of the first like 3 seasons, which is what I like. Which are like some of the best seasons of Dexter.
I've not watched a ton of Dexter, but the little bit I did watch was anytime I was channel surfing back in the day, and I stopped, and John Lithgow was on screen, I stopped and I watched.
That was a really good season with John Lithgow.
John
Because
Lithgow
every
is so good, dude.
Yeah, that was a really good season. Every season has like a guest star. The one with
Okay.
Jimmy Smith is really good too.
Okay.
Least favorite one, hate to say it. I definitely the last. Well, before Bloodlines, the last one was not great. Sean Patrick Flannery season was my least favorite one, and that's because I dearly love Sean Patrick Flannery. But the least favorite season of Dexter.
I like Boondock Saints, but I can't tell you anything about his season of Dexter.
Least favorite season, but you know, it is what it is.
Right. So I take it you're excited for the new season.
Mm-hmm. I actually put the one because I just grabbed one of her shirt.
The
I didn't even like when I put on until I was like, yeah, I guess I'm wearing a Dexter shirt.
horror TV is kind of on a tear right now. Of course, the season 1 of Welcome to Derry just wrapped up.
Yeah.
Really, really rich in world building. I still haven't caught the finale.
Oh, I was going to say I saw the finale.
But they've done a really good job building the world of Derry to, and both in ways that the movie didn't. I still very much like the movies. I actually enjoyed 2 more than a lot of people did, but that may just be because I like Jessica Chastain. But it also supplements the movies, and I think that's the hardest thing to do when you're doing a prequel series canonically.
I can't tell. Well, since you haven't seen the finale, I'm not going to tell you much. Definitely a very, very strong finale. Very good, very solid. It's interesting that it's a prequel, but not a prequel.
Right.
Which they explain it like on the last episode. It's that's why I said it. I thought it was going to be just a prequel series, but it's not really kind of a prequel. It's weird. It's interesting.
Well, Pennywise is a unique character time-wise.
Yeah. Well, it has to do with time. Like,
right.
The future, the present, and like the past don't exist to him as a being.
Right. That's interesting. Well, he's such a unique character, like entity, that it makes sense that the laws of time and space wouldn't concern him because the laws of physics don't concern him. It's been a really good year for horror TV too. We have Stranger Things coming up. The next drop is Christmas, I think. But we also
Stranger Things, dude.
But we also have the drop for the finale, which is going in theaters. I'm stoked for that. So horror TV is firing on all cylinders right now. A lot of good stuff happened this year, and that's something I want to see more of. There hasn't really been a lot of new ground in horror television lately.
We mentioned that.
So a new Dexter, that's very good. A phenomenal HBO show. And the HBO finale did 6.5 million within the first 3 days, which for HBO Max is a huge number streaming wise.
What are you talking about?
For Welcome to Derry.
Okay, I was like, go back to what you were talking about. I was like, what show?
Of course, Stranger Things is still doing phenomenal numbers. So not only are we getting good horror television, we're getting good horror television across different services, Paramount, HBO, Netflix, and they're doing pretty good numbers, which means we should get a lot more good horror coming up, which excites me. Of course, Netflix is still all in on the genre, doing a live different mini-series stuff like that, but nothing like full-fledged the way some of their other earlier content has been. The one show from this year that I really enjoyed, that I didn't really expect to enjoy, but I turned it on just because it stars one of my favorite actors, is a show called Wayward. Mini-series on Netflix.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
So there was a show on Netflix called Wayward that was a mini-series, 8 episodes, with Toni Collette. And basically, Toni Collette runs this camp for wayward teenagers that's basically a cult. And they...
Of course it's a cult.
You knew how to get it was going to be a cult. And Toni Collette doing horror, always fun. Like, we talk about Hereditary, but she's phenomenal in The Sixth Sense too, dude. That's one of my favorite horror scenes of all time, when they're sitting in the car accident, and she still doesn't believe Haley Joel Osment sees things, but she wants to support her kid. And then he tells her the famous line, but it's not even the famous line for me. It's her face and her reaction. It tells the whole story when he goes, "Grandma was at your play." Like, that's, to me, like one of the best horror scenes in history, because it delves so much into the interpersonal web that can be solved by the supernatural element that they introduced in the movie. I think Toni Collette's one of our most underrated horror icons. I truly do. She doesn't do a lot, but when she does, she knocks it out of the park. So she's very freaky and creepy in this one. I would put it more thriller than horror, but it kind of bends both ways. Basically, one girl's best friend gets sent to her camp, so she decides to break into the camp. And meanwhile, an officer who just moved to this small rural town from a big city to get away from all the cop stuff, moved to the small town their wife is from, and their wife came up through the camp, and they didn't know that. So while they're investigating the camp, you have the wife trying to block it too, because she feels indebted to Toni Collette's character. It was a really fascinating premise, and the show explored it really well. I would highly recommend that for people who may not have heard of it, because let's call a spade a spade. Netflix does not market their new shows, especially miniseries, very well in 2025 at all. A lot of really good horror television this year, and I wanted to kind of touch on that too a little bit from on what's probably I think
Wait, what? You broke up.
I wanted to touch a little bit on the horror television aspect, on what probably I think is going to be our last show of the year.
It's the last show of the year.
Man, we made it through the first year. Well, really the first 6 months, but the first year. Woo-hoo. Thank you, everybody, for listening, of course.
For the first 6 months. That's half a year, dude.
Right, but we made it through the end of the calendar on the first year.
Yeah, there you go.
Another thing I wanted to touch on is some of my favorite holiday horror, since it is the holiday season.
I know. I was gonna say, I was like, should we go down a list of holiday horror movies?
The thing that bothers me about holiday horror is
it's gimmicky.
Not that it's gimmicky. I think there's a lot of great. I think a lot of holiday horrors are kind of in that Lethal Weapon, Die Hard vein of they're not traditional Christmas movies, but they happen to take place over the course of the holidays.
How dare you talk that way about great films like Mean One and Jack Frost and
Hold on.
Krampus.
I saw the P1 in theaters at a midnight showing with my best friend. We were the only two people in the theater, and we
I
had
never been to a midnight showing of the Mean One.
the best time because it was not a good movie, but we knew how to get it. This is gonna be horrible. We wanted a horrible movie, and we spent the entire time laughing our asses off, making fun of this movie because we were the only people in the theater. So giving
Remember
our
when we tried to
commentary
get
to
through
each other.
Plan 9?
I'm sorry.
Do you remember when we tried to get through Plan 9?
Do you remember when we watched Christmas Evil?
How much of a how disappointing is that movie in the aspect that there's not a lot of killing in it?
My two favorite things about the movie. Oh, three. There are three things I specifically remember us losing our minds over on the street for Christmas Evil. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't remember the play. I remember actively doing it, but I don't remember anything about the stream where we did the watch along with Plan 9 because that movie was so trotting that I don't remember any of it. Like, at least with bad movies that are like fun bad, you remember aspects. I remember when his eyebrows fall off, so he just draws them on. I remember, and apparently this used to be like a real thing, but the couple who just put two twin-sized beds together, and that was their main beds.
I don't even think that they were together. I think the beds are separate, and that's what we were talking about.
And I think that I remember the end where the van drives in the sky like a sleigh.
But it's like there was how the whole time we're waiting. I remember we were watching on stream, and we're like, okay, so this is supposed to be like a slasher horror movie. This is the first time we both had seen it, you and I.
Right.
And we were like, how many kills was that? Like,
And
I think we counted like 2 or 3.
It did the criminal offense of a slasher. If your kills are cool enough, quantity doesn't matter if your quality is there. But I don't even think they showed you half of the kills they actually did.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Like, I remember, like, slasher films are the things you remember from slasher films are the kills. I remember the In a Violent Nature is not a good movie, but you know what? One of the coolest things I've ever seen is when the lady is doing yoga and he hooks her head through her spine. Like, quality kills can make up for where a slasher may lack because that's what you're going into a slasher for. But there were no memorable kills in Christmas Evil.
We couldn't even remember it. That's why I said we were talking, and I remember on stream, you and I we were like mentioning about the kills, and you said, "What was that? Like a total of 2 kills?"
Right.
And they weren't really memorable. Like
but for me, the biggest issue with holiday horror is a lot of it just feels set during Christmas time. Like, it doesn't feel like it moves the plot. Like a movie like Long Legs or The Shining that are like caught in snow makes it gives it that cozy Christmas feel. But realistically, the reason a movie like Long Legs is set during Christmas is because the blood spiral looks great when it's on snow. You know what I mean? Like, that's why most of the Christmas movies are kind of set during Christmas. And I think that's my biggest issue with holiday horror. I watched one for the first time the other night with it's a Swedish film with the guy from Sisu called Rare Exports, which is basically just. I'm sorry?
I said I haven't seen that. I've never seen it.
It's basically just Santa Claus sawing people up.
Huh.
You know what? Good movie? No. Did I have a good time? Hell yeah, I did. Nosferatu's recent, but I really enjoyed last year's Nosferatu.
It was really good. It
Of
really
course, there.
was. It's very visually the aesthetic, like visually, it's very like I don't want to necessarily say. Oh, I can talk right. I don't want to necessarily say stunning, but
It's very pleasant to look at.
yes.
And I thought, first off, Willem Dafoe needs to be in every movie because I remember kind of just going, I'm not on the same wavelength with this. And the moment I heard Willem Dafoe's voice, I was like, I love this movie. But because he doesn't show up until like an hour in. But of course, Robert Eggers does a phenomenal job on the sound design, which he does with every horror movie. There's a movie called Angel Heart, which Mickey Rourke basically plays a detective from Brooklyn who has to track down this singer, but it takes him through time, through like the Louisiana Bayou, and but it's actively set during Christmas. So even though it's a supernatural movie that doesn't really have much to do with Christmas, it technically fits that Christmas feel, and I kind of want to point it out because I feel like that's an underseen movie.
I've never heard of that movie.
Underrated Mickey Rourke performance, underrated Robert De Niro performance, which there's a lot of those because his filmography is pretty expansive. I can't think of her name. The Lenny Kravitz's ex-wife.
Lisa
Bonet, thank you. Or Bonnet, however it's pronounced.
Bonet. No, you're right. Bonet.
That's who I'm thinking of. She's really good in it. So I wanted to give that a shout. Of course, the Christmas movie is for going a ways back to the 50s is Night of the Hunter with Robert Mitchum. That's like the iconic. You see this in other movies. They're watching this movie in horror movies set in Christmas during the movie, kind of. Of course, Robert Mitchum's in one of my favorite Christmas movies, but it's not a horror movie, so we can't talk about it. Although I guess it's kind of a supernatural movie because it's a ghost story.
Yeah.
The Bill Murray Scrooge is what I'm alluding to.
Was it you that said that was your favorite adaptation of Christmas Carol?
Yes.
Okay.
The scene where there's a lot of funny Christmas scenes, but the scene where Carol Kane pops in as the ghost of, I think, Christmas Present, I believe that's accurate. And she just starts beating him up. It's hilarious. Every time Bill Murray says, "Bitch hit me with the toaster," I lose my mind every year. It's so funny, dude. Technically, Malignant set during Christmas, but again, I don't think of it as a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I don't think
American Psycho.
Oh, I always forget that American Psycho is around that time.
Right.
But you think about it, there is a scene where they go to the Christmas party and who is it, Reese Witherspoon?
Yes.
And she's like, "Oh, lighten up, Patrick, blah, blah." Then she puts those stupid like reindeer antlers on him. I think she says something like that. I could be misquoting it, but I remember specifically the antlers. He's so
there was one more on my brain. Oh, there are two key Christmas horror movies. One, it's a family. I don't really count it as horror, but a lot of people do. It's a family movie. Don't Feed Them After Midnight, Ash.
The Gremlins?
The Gremlins.
Yeah, it's a beloved movie. I don't consider it horror, but I consider it more family, but I think it's supposed to be a horror movie, but I consider it a family movie.
I think the issue with compartmentalizing horror is we consider horror of what's scary, but there are so many horror elements that it's hard to call. Just because it's a family movie doesn't mean it can't be another genre, and it's hard to quantify the genre if you force it out of horror.
Gremlins is really good. It's a very fun movie.
The Don't Feed After Midnight, and a more recent one, of course. Recent is relative because it's 6 or 7 years old now, but Midsommar takes place at Christmas. Kind of the whole story is that they go to Europe for their Christmas festivities of the cult, and this is one where the holiday season is actually imperative to the plot because it's the whole reason they're there. And so I think that other than that, I just don't feel anything that's like important Christmas that I actively care about. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally care about.
I'm gonna say something, and that's probably gonna get me in more hot water than the I don't care for Silent Night, whatever. I'm not one of those. Oh, Roman Polanski is such a weirdo. I can't enjoy his films. I think Roman Polanski is a sleazy douchebag weirdo, but I think Repulsion is one of the best horror films ever made. Like, I'm not saying his films are bad because of who he is. I don't care for Rosemary's Baby as a horror movie.
You and I have talked about this on the phone.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about it. How we
I don't
both
want to go into
Rosemary's
why.
Baby.
I've saved that for a later episode. Maybe if it ever comes up.
We'll talk about it eventually. But you and I personally talked on the phone about, it was one of those times that we were talking about work and then we ended up talking about Rosemary's Baby eventually sometime during that conversation. And we both said how we both did not like Rosemary's Baby.
But, like, I'm not going to take anything away from him as a filmmaker. I have a picture of Repulsion on my board back here, which is a Polanski movie. I very much enjoy Frantic. I think The Pianist one and Chinatown are two of the best movies ever made.
We've also talked about The Pianist. You and I have also talked about that too.
Have we really?
On the phone? Yeah.
I think that and Chinatown are two of the best movies ever made. Like, I'm not letting my opinion on the man ruin the art. I just don't care.
As far as you and I'll call Jameus and it's usually about work for like the first like 10 minutes. Okay, cool. Yeah, we agree. All right, rock on. And then like all of a sudden we're talking about how we don't like Rosemary's Baby.
Or some musician we don't care for, or a musician we do care for.
Or we're talking about Bon Jovi had the best songs of all the bands.
Okay. The best album from anybody of that hair metal craze came in the 90s, and it was These Days by Bon Jovi.
Yeah. So my sister is older than me. The 90s was like her time when she was in high school. And I asked her, because my sister listened to like, she loved like, she loved like Guns N' Roses and, all that shit.
Yeah, I love Guns N' Roses too, baby.
We both love Guns N' Roses. We both talked on great lengths about Duff McKagan, you and I.
Right. Big Duff McKagan guy right here.
Like, no, everyone wants to talk about Slash. No, we want to talk about Duff McKagan.
Hey, I like Slash too, but I think Duff McKagan's just as good of a musician. He just doesn't look as cool, so nobody cares.
Yeah. So I had asked her, I was like, hey, let me ask you a question. And she was like, yeah, what's up? And I said, okay, so my sister, had this massive CD collection.
Right.
I'm talking about like she had binders of like CDs. And back then that was a big deal.
Right.
In high school,
Yeah.
So she had like of course, like all the Guns N' Roses albums. She had Pearl Jam, we can go on.
10 is a top 10 record of all time, by the way.
Yeah.
Somehow I might prefer Vitalogy.
Yeah, like she had them. Like she had them on CD, dude. Like, so I had asked her, I was like, okay, in your opinion, I said, your personal opinion, who do you think had the better music? John Bon Jovi or Guns N' Roses? And she's like, oh, John Bon Jovi had the better songs, but Guns N' Roses, they were a lot cooler.
Right. Guns N' Roses looked a lot cooler. I'll give you that.
Guns N' Roses they looked totally cool. They were a lot cooler, but Bon Jovi had the better songs.
Bon Jovi kind of looks sort of cool if you look at just John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora. But no disrespect to the guys of Mod's Mission, love them as musicians. Tico Torres is not a cool looking dude. David Bryan is not a cool looking dude. Alec John Such, R.I.P. Rest his soul, not a cool looking dude. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. But either way, they're not the coolest looking band in the world.
And I was telling her, like, so we always like eventually go through like, so we go out to like eat. We go to like our like, whatever ramen place we want to try. So like that's her thing. And I'll occasionally be like, okay, dude. I was like, I said during the time of the 90s, how many grunge bands do you remember? And she's all, there were so many of them. She was all, there's Blind Melon. Then
Mother
we could talk about Mother Love Bone. We could talk about Alice in Chains. We could talk. I told her, what is the name of that band, dude? I can't think of the name of it. She's all, what band? I said, it wasn't Alice in Chains. The singer died of a heroin. No, I saw. We're gonna get to that. I go, the singer died of a heroin overdose. She's all, you're really limiting it there.
So simple.
She's all, and I tell her, yeah, Velvet Revolver, Scott White. She's all, it's Ashley. I was like, holy shit, that was Stone Temple Pilots.
I personally don't consider Stone Temple grunge because I think grunge is more of a scene than a sound if he didn't come from that scene. But I understand why people would group him in. Same thing with the Smashing Pumpkins. They're kind of grouped in.
And we always go into those conversations and I'm like, okay, so I was like, yeah. And I go, okay, I was getting to the point of Stone Temple Pilots or Smashing Pumpkins. She's all, Stone Temple Pilots. She's all, I never got into Smashing Pumpkins.
Smashing Pumpkins is what I like to call, and this is no disrespect because it's a good living, it's a good career, and it's a lot better music than I'll ever make. Smashing Pumpkins to me are a radio band. They have kind of like the biggest radio band of the 90s is the Goo Goo Dolls, speaking of 90s rock. But the Smashing Pumpkins have 6 or 7 really good songs. They're all radio singles. You do not want to hear the B-sides. Do not buy them.
Is it because the world's a vampire? And I told her,
right on my rage, Ash.
I always do like random comparisons. Like during that time, I go, yeah, okay. And I tell her, yes, yeah, that's it. Stone Temple Pilots. I was like, the singer. I said, I remember the singer very well.
But I will say this, even though I also think he's kind of weird, I would much rather hang out with Billy Corgan than Scott Weiland just because I would like to talk wrestling with Billy Corgan.
That's right, Billy Corgan. He still own it?
I think he still owns NWA.
I was going to say,
I don't think he's owning it very well, but that's a different conversation if we're not going into wrestling rants on this show.
Then I told her, I was like, yeah, that or Smashing Pumpkins. She's all easy. Stone Temple Pilots. So easy.
I think where a lot of the grunge bands really prove their salt. And you know me, we've had this discussion. I do not care for Nirvana.
We've talked about that too. I'm not a big Nirvana fan either. And interesting enough that you said that and I said that, I remember my friend David Phantom from Evelyn's Casket making a post that he also did not really care for like that during that time period. I think maybe he might have said Nirvana too.
I love Dave Grohl.
We all love Dave Grohl.
That's the goat right there. The
Studio 666 was okay. I thought it could have been better, but it was okay. It was fun for what it was. But
I think where a lot of bands earn their salt, like for me, the best Nirvana stuff is MTV Unplugged.
Yeah, the acoustic set was really good.
For me, Stone Temple. My favorite Stone Temple recording of any song is the MTV Unplugged version of Creep. My favorite Pearl Jam work, as much as I love Pearl Jam, Chris Cornell is probably my favorite grunge musician, but Pearl Jam is probably my favorite grunge band.
Yeah, I can see that.
My favorite Pearl Jam stuff is the MTV Unplugged.
MTV Unplugged was really good.
That version of Black is like heart-wrenching.
I love how we were talking horror and all of a sudden the last minutes we're talking about.
That might be where Smashing Pumpkins really failed to capitalize legacy-wise. They never did an MTV Unplugged, to my knowledge. All of the other big bands in that scene did.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they... Look, MTV was the craze, man. I know we were well past the Money for Nothing, Dancing in the Dark Thriller music video craze by the 90s, but it was just as big of a deal in a completely different way. MTV kind of ruled culture in the 90s with Beavis and Butthead and the Unplugged. That was a big deal for all those bands, and Smashing Pumpkins never hopped on.
Speaking of Beavis and Butthead, I recently learned, and I thought this was interesting, and I was going to actually tell you, but we'll go ahead and discuss it on air real quick. Kind of horror related. Did you know that that's how Gwar got their big break, was because of Beavis and Butthead?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because apparently they wouldn't play them on MTV, or they didn't know where to put them. Not even Headbangers Ball.
Right. They were a little more risque for what MTV was trying to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how they got their break, dude, was Beavis and Butthead.
My favorite thing about Beavis and Butthead is one joke that they ran into the ground. It's funny every time. Obviously, Beavis and Butthead wear Metallica and AC/DC shirts. Like, cool. Mainstream but cool rock bands, you know?
Oh. I was going to say, are you talking about how Stuart wore Winger?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I remember that. This guy, Winger, was a cool rock band. Easiest way to make the wardrobe tell you everything you need to know about his character. What a great thing.
I guess we're up on time.
Yeah, that's an hour. Where can the good folks find you, Ash?
At A Rose Distortion. Of course, you can follow us at Death Arts 13 or go to deatharts13.com. You can find us on all audio platforms, video, main platforms, etc., etc.
We have a lot of great stuff coming out that Ash will be narrating, including stuff on the Sisters of Mercy and Nimvid. So if you want your Saturday night killed, be sure to listen to the upcoming Nimvid video.
Yeah, we're also doing Blitz Kid. We're also going to be doing a David Bowie. We're going to come out 2026. We are going to start doing more Decades in Darkness. And we've got our last 2 episodes coming out pretty soon from this past season, I guess we'd call it a season.
Sure.
So why not? Mini-series of which is we got AFI, that we got, of course, Stephen King, which Jameus wrote.
I'm doing the AFI one too, aren't I?
You ready? It's already recorded.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's recorded? Okay.
Yeah, you already wrote the AFI one, dude.
No, I meant, I knew I wrote it already. I meant in my brain. I don't know. You mentioned that I wrote one, but not the other. So I was like, did I do that one?
No, I said no. I said which you both wrote.
And we have an upcoming AFI show too, right? Another one on the next era.
Yeah, next era we'll announce that. I want to aim that towards more like December.
Silver and Gold era, yeah.
Because this episode just talks about the beginning of AFI up until their EP and
Oh, December Underground's a lot later. That's like mid 2000s.
Yeah, we're gonna go into mid 2000s.
That's Miss Murder, Love Like Winter. I think.
That's a good album. Solid. It's such a good album.
Yeah.
Well, very well produced.
So we've got a lot on the channel, and on the website, I should have an article up for you soon. Probably New Year's.
Also, if you go to our Death Arts 13 social medias, we've got a list of the upcoming podcasts for Decades of Darkness. And of course, we're still doing this podcast too. And yeah, that's what we got going on.
The good folks can find me at the Jameus on Twitter. We only call it Twitter here. We were dead Davids. Because we are actually serious people, unlike the people over on Twitter.
I hardly even open that app now.
You can find me on Slasher. You can find me on Letterboxd at Jameus Mooney. Where
I told you Slasher was fun. You were going to have a good time.
I actually, Slasher isn't as active as it was the first couple of days I was on it. So I hope it's not leveling off. You know what I mean? But I made a couple posts. I made a post that I watched the Laura Linney Courtroom Horror, which we were talking about exorcism movies earlier today. I would like movies that do something different. And I thought doing reliving an exorcism through the testimony, the court case of Emily Rose, whatever. I can't think of the name of it.
Yes, I've seen that.
The exorcism of Emily Rose. That's a fun way to do something different with the genre. Another one of our great underrated actors, Laura Linney. I recently made a post about the Silent Night Deadly Night, of course. So I'm still using it but not when I watch everything. Find me on Letterboxd. I do a lot of horror stuff. I recently made a horror section on my profile.
Look, we can also move over if Slasher levels off. We can always move over to Psychos Only, which is the Einstein Kills app.
Why can't we do both?
I'm on Psychos Only. I just haven't logged in.
You have never mentioned Psychos Only to me, so apparently I'm not psycho enough for it.
Oh, hold on. It's actually
done.
It's actually believe it or not, it was really active. I don't know if it's still active now. I'm pretty sure it is. Psychos Only. Yes, it's still active. I will send you the link so you can join the Einstein Kills app.
For my Letterboxd, I recently created a horror section on my profile where I go through what I think the horror movies are for each decade, the best horror movies are in general, Stephen King adaptations, different topics, neon horror, A24 horror, New Line horror. Like I go through different directors, Cronenberg. I'm sorry?
I said, oh yeah, New Line.
They're still making good horror. The best horror, the two best horror movies of the year were from Warner Bros. This year, including New Line Specialty Weapons. Mike DeLuca is still doing excellent work at New Line. He's just doing excellent work all around now as the head of Warner Bros. Him and Pam Abdi both. But different directors like Cronenberg, Craven, and go through different franchises. It's a really fun little section if you want my thoughts and stuff. So be sure to follow me on there. This is our final show of the year. Happy holidays, regardless of what you celebrate. We hope everybody has a safe holiday season filled with fun horror frights from movies they're watching. Signing off for the year, I am the Jameus. I am joined as always by Ash Rose. Be sure to keep up with all the fun things that Death Arts 13 has coming to you in 2026, including I think I'm going to be writing a lot more. So some fun horror articles and maybe some not so horror based articles depending on where the site heads. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night or morning, day, whenever you're watching this. Thank you for listening in 2025. We really appreciate it.